Welcome back, listeners. Today, we're diving into a conversation with Karen Caplan, a true trailblazer in the produce industry. From becoming president of Frida's specialty produce at just 30 years old, Karen's journey is a testament to resilience and strategic thinking. In this episode, Karen shares her candid insights on what it takes to succeed in a family business, build lasting relationships, and adapt in the ever-changing world of produce. This episode of the Fresh CrEd is proudly brought to you by JR Imports.
At JR Imports, we deliver more than just produce. We bring the authentic flavors of Mexico directly to your shelves and kitchens. From crisp white onions and fiery jalapenos to sweet guavas and tender bananas, our fresh produce is packaged with care, ready to meet your customers' needs. Looking for something unique? Our tlayuda from Oaxaca, vibrant prickly pear cactus, and guavas are guaranteed to stand out. Our grocery line is the perfect complement, offering Mexican staples like sodas, sauces, snacks, and pantry essentials, everything your customers expect and more. Elevate your offerings with the authentic taste of Mexico. Visit jrimportsproduce.com today to explore our products and connect with our team.
So, our guest is one of those that, that they say does not need an introduction, but we will do an introduction.
For formality's sake.
For formality, exactly. It's Karen Caplan here, which is an icon of the business. Her mother, herself, her family. I mean, like I said, needs no introduction, but Karen, welcome to the Fresh CrEd and welcome to Atlanta.
Thank you so much.
Good morning. Thanks for being with us.
It's fantastic to be here finally.
And did you stay up watching this documentary last night? Did you watch
I
it?
probably haven't memorized it.
So should we fill him in on what we're talking about?
Never watched the documentary on Frida's, my mom, the family business, of course.
I did not know the name.
Yeah.
I have actually seen it.
Okay.
So I have seen
great.
it.
I think I had seen clips, but I didn't realize it was a long form.
It was a full-length documentary.
Yeah.
It was so amazing when my mom was getting old and Frida. And I said to my director of marketing, I want to get some video of her telling stories of the company. And she said, really, we should make a movie. And I said, we sell produce, we're not going to make a movie. And she said, well, my husband's in the film business. So we actually interviewed some directors and producers and selected this great guy, Mark Ryan Smith. And we gave him no direction. And he made this amazing 96-minute full-length documentary. And I don't know if you've ever been involved in making a film, but the director and producer has everything in their mind. And once they edit it, cut it to the sound, and get the score done and everything, it's completely different than all the times that they were doing a film.
Right.
And so I remember sitting with my mom at my house, the first screening. So it was the first cut. And 96 minutes. And afterwards, she was 91 years old. She's like, how did you do that? Like, it's amazing. And
It's been about 10 years now at this point, right? So
yeah,
she would have been 100 years old. Basically.
she would have been 101 this year.
Wow.
So she was just 90 when we filmed the movie. But it's amazing because it traces her as a little girl. Of course, my sister as a little girl, all the way through her career at UCLA, her education at UCLA, getting into the produce business, introducing the Cuban CrEd to America, and then becoming one.
It's great. It's great for, not only in the context of the produce industry, but just business in general and history. And as I was watching it, I thought, how cool it was that you actually had so much video. Like, I don't think I have that much video nowadays with the technology we have of myself.
My dad used to take, movies, right? Home movies, all the photographs. My mom kept everything. She was a hoarder, but she kept everything. I still at home now have her day book from 1945, which is when she graduated from UCLA. And she would cut out the tickets and make notes, everything of what she did.
Karen Caplan here, which is an icon of the business. Her mother, herself, her family. Like I say, needs no introduction, but Karen, welcome to the Fresh CrEd and welcome to Atlanta.
Thank you so much.
Good morning. Thanks for being with us.
Fantastic to be here finally.
Now, did you stay up watching this documentary last night? Did you watch
I
it?
probably have it memorized.
So should we fill him in on what we're talking about?
He's never watched the documentary on Frida's mom, the family business. Of course,
I did not know the name.
Yeah.
I have actually seen it.
Okay.
So I
Yeah,
have seen the
great.
documentary.
I think I had seen clips, but I didn't realize it was a long form.
It was a full-length documentary.
Yeah.
It was so amazing when my mom was getting older and on Frida. And I said to my director of marketing, I want to get some videos for telling stories in the company. And she said, really, we should make a movie. And I said, we self-produce, we're not going to make a movie. And she said, well, my husband's in the video business. So we actually interviewed some directors and producers and selected this great guy, Mark Brian Smith. And we gave him no direction. And he made this amazing 96-minute long full-length documentary. And I don't know if you've ever been involved in making a film, but the director producer has everything in their mind. And once they edit it and cut it and do the sound and the score done and everything, it's completely different than all the times that they were doing the filming.
Right.
And so I remember sitting with my mom at my house, the first screening was the first cut. And 96 minutes, and afterwards, she was 90, 91 years old. She's like, how did they do that? Like, that's amazing.
And it's been about 10 years now at this point, right? So she would have been 100 years old.
She would have been 101 this year. So she was just 90 when we filmed the movie. But it's amazing because it traces her as a little girl. And of course, my sister as little girls, all the way through her career at UCLA, her education at UCLA, getting into the produce business, introducing the kiwi fruit to America, and then becoming wonderful.
It's great. It's great for, not only in the context of the produce industry, but just business in general and history. And as I was watching it, I thought, how cool it was that you actually had so much video. Like, I don't think I have that much video nowadays with the technology we have of myself.
We went through all of them. My dad used to take, movies, right? Home movies, all the photographs. My mom kept everything. She wasn't a hoarder, but she kept everything. I still at home now have her day book from 1945, which is when she graduated from UCLA. And she would pad out the tickets and make notes every day.
That's super cool. I'll be honest with you. I think I've got like 10 minutes, the last 10 minutes that it got late.
The end of the movie is, of all things,
Don't spoil it.
well, it's a fact, is she was given an honorary PhD at Cal Poly.
Oh.
And it happened, she got the call from the university president while we were taking this movie. And the filmmaker said, I want to go to Cal Poly. And I'm like, what? And he said, well, I want to hear her speech and moving in Cal Poly. And I'm like, but like her whole life is 90 years. Like, this is like 3 minutes. He said, I have a vision. And when you hear her speech, which we worked out together for 2 or 3 minutes, is the flashback for life. Just thinking about kind of brings
Yeah, I was gonna say, I got kind of choked up midway through when you're talking about how privileged you were to go to work with your mom and your sister and daughter, everybody. And then you got pretty emotional there, so I came in. I'll have to finish that off at home. I'm not sure.
Thanks for watching.
But it was my pleasure.
All right, back up the truck a little bit.
Okay.
Because we fast forwarded all the way, this is the opportunity to find out who Karen is. So childhood, college, produce business. So as a kid growing up, before you were owning a company, what was that like? Where did it all start?
Growing up, I was the oldest child. It was me and my sister. My mom worked, and no one's mom worked. So I had a really tough time growing up because I always felt like my mom wasn't there. Because she would get up at 1 o'clock in the morning and drive to the produce market and then come back.
So you guys have always been on the LA market there?
We were in the beginning. We
Okay.
were for the first from 1962 until about 1984. We were on the produce market. And then she'd come home at 5 o'clock at night. And so I was always kind of annoyed that she wasn't around. I went to my elementary school was across the street from our house. but I always felt like I was on my own. And of course, we all have issues with our parents, right, growing up.
Yeah.
But it's because we had the parents we had that made us who we are. So later in life, I kind of resolved all that. But I went to high school, actually right where our business was, eventually in Los Alamitos, and I did not know what I wanted to do. And I remember my high school counselor went to UC Davis.
Okay.
I had no idea UC Davis was an agricultural school. So I applied to a few schools and I got into Davis and I went there. And my mom was so excited because she had someone there. His name was Dr. Robert Kasmeyer. He was the guy who did all the research on truck transportation temperature control. And so she was so excited when I went there. She flew up with me and introduced me to Bob Kasmeyer. And they were so excited. I was, going to a country school. And I'm like, well, I'm pre-med, pre-law, pre-anything.
Pre-anything but produce.
No way. Yes, I was kind of annoyed. Even I worked every summer.
Yeah, I was wondering, so when did you actually start going to the market or being part of the business? I mean, how early an age did you get involved with the produce?
Well, at 8, my mom started the business when I was 7. So by age 10, she needed someone to stuff envelopes on the weekends because she did really innovative things. She mailed out information about the products in her price sheets. So I was stuffing envelopes. And then I remember sometimes she would take us on Saturdays, take us to the produce market. And it was sort produce. I remember, if you ever been to produce, I know you've been.
Yeah, for sure.
That lovely smell of tomatoes and mangoes and peppers and
Yeah.
So,
It makes you really want to be there.
well, yeah, I still do love the smell of walking a produce warehouse.
Yeah.
And it brings back such memories. It's kind of like my mom would come home from work and it was the smell. It was, ode to Frida, ode to the produce. And it was like, that really fresh. She sold mushrooms, had the smell of mushrooms.
Earthy.
And yeah, like that. So I worked summers. So I started stuffing envelopes at age 10. By the time I was 14, I would go to work with my mom, 2 o'clock in the morning. And then I remember I would sleep she had a couch in her office.
Yeah.
And her little office wasn't even as big as this, where her desk was. And I would just curl up and take a nap. And then she would wake me up about 4 or 5 and we would drive home. And that's all I knew was working summers and vacations for my mom. But I never thought of it like it's something I wanted to do. It was just helping.
Yeah, just what you get. Yeah.
So, but I got my first taste of sales when I was, school sell candy bars and cookies to raise money. So my mom had this great idea that I would order hundreds of the candy bars and I would go to work with her one morning. And then I would stand out in front of the stand and sell the candies. And I sold out. I sold like 300 or 400 of them. Because, who doesn't want to buy, Frida's daughter, give me $5 or $2, whatever it was. So I got my first taste of sales.
Yeah.
Of course, I was exhausted that day when I got back to school. So I went off to college, went off to Davis, thinking I was doing something else. And I didn't really.
So you didn't know what it was? You know if he was going to be an attorney, a doctor, or whatever, just not produce.
So back in the day, you would be undeclared. You did not have to declare a major. So at Davis, I was undeclared.
I think I've spent my entire college career undeclared.
Yes, exactly. So I was undeclared and I really didn't like it. It was really hard. It went, from a small town high school to this giant university. And I had a friend from high school that was going to school down in the Bay Area. It was Mills College, which is a women's college in Oakland.
Yeah.
And I would go to visit her. And I thought it was so cool because it was less than 1,000 students, and I would say 99% of them. There were a few, men graduate students. And so, UC Davis is a public university and Mills College is a private college. And I just was independent. So I decided to transfer.
Mm-hmm.
So I applied to Mills. I didn't tell my parents, right? So I come home from school and telling my dad that I was going to go to Mills next year. Well, college at UC Davis was $212.50 a quarter.
Oh my God, that's crazy expensive.
Yes. And then when I went to Mills, it was like $8,000 a semester. So, and I don't know why my parents went along with it. So I transferred to Mills.
Yeah.
And I kind of found myself there because I didn't have 20,000 students, and riding bicycles and all the crazy stuff in the dormitories. And so I was at Mills. And my mom had this general manager that had been a buyer. I don't know if you guys remember Topco.
Yeah. I did.
He was a head buyer at Topco, Richard Hernandez.
Yeah.
And Richard came up to the Bay Area to have dinner, have a meeting or something, and invited me to dinner. And so we're sitting at dinner, and he turns to me and says, it was in May of my sophomore year, and he said, Karen, I'm going to be retiring soon, and I know your mom is going to be looking for someone to help her run the business. You might want to think about that as a career. And Richard had never gone to college. He was from El Paso, Texas.
Yeah.
And I remember looking, kind of nodding. I was 19 years old, and he left. And I went back to my dorm. And I remember, within a few days, I literally sat up in the middle of the night. I was like, oh, shit. That's what I should do.
Oh my God.
I love that. I mean, I love sales. I knew produce. It was right there in Southern California. And all of a sudden, everything made sense. So my dad was thrilled because now I wanted to go back to Davis because that's an agricultural school.
Right.
So I had to finagle a few things, units, and all that kind of stuff. And I transferred back to Davis, where it was $212.50 a quarter. And I declared a major in agricultural economics and business management. And I started getting straight A's in school because it was what I loved.
Yeah.
And I did especially well in the marketing class. And then said to what I told my mom, by the way, I'd like to work with you. And what I really admired about my mom was that she never put any pressure on either me or my sister to come into the business. It was a summer job.
Yeah.
And I actually did the same thing with my kids. But she was amazing. So my senior year, she decided that the best way to get me prepared was she would make a photocopy on that slick, sticky backstone paper. You remember that old paper? She would make a photocopy of every piece of correspondence that came in or went out of the company, and she would put it in an envelope every week, and she would mail it to me. I don't know if you remember in college back in the day, kids always wanted to get mail. And I was the only one about mail. I had these big envelopes because that paper's really big. And so I got to know the goings on in business. Then between my second quarter and third quarter of my senior year, my mom was going to take a trip to New Zealand to visit the Kiwi growers because, as you know, she introduced the Kiwi fruit to America, and she invited me to go with her. So I spent my spring break there and the first week of my final quarter in New Zealand, watching my mom, and travel around New Zealand. We went to Fiji, we went to Hawaii, and I'll never forget. I started working for my mom full time. After I graduated, I went to Europe, with my friend, and came back and started working for her October 3rd, 1977.
Wow. So you just celebrated an anniversary on October 3rd. So you're a few years. What did you say? What year?
77.
77.
Don't do the math.
It's okay.
Well, I think
You and I are close in age. No worries.
it frequently goes the other way though. Like you had the, I guess, epiphany or
Yes.
awakening or whatever you feel you received. But having grown up in a small business or in a family business, my wife as well, like, neither of us wanted anything to do with it, and we just ran away basically. I feel like I hear that story more often than your story. So very fortunate you had that. Obviously, that
And
thought.
I think what's different, Ed, is that, my mom was not a motherly kind of person. So anyone ever met my mom, everyone loved her. But, it was really tough having her as a mom because she wasn't really nurturing and such. However, in business, she was so welcoming. I mean, she let me make mistakes. And I always tell people in family business, the great thing about my mom is when I really messed up on something, like made some deal that was bad, she would say, oh, that's nothing. Let me tell you about that load of, Fiji ginger that I had to as I handled it wrong, or all those mangoes that went bad in the warehouse. So, she was so supportive and not trying to make herself look better.
That's awesome.
All right, so that's a segue into a question that I have, right? So, obviously everybody sees the success, the journey, but it probably wasn't always paved very nicely. There had to be a few bumps along the way. What in your time, right? Whether coming into the business, running the business, whatever, give everybody kind of an insight into a difficult situation. Kiwi low that you couldn't sell. I don't know. What was it? A moment in time in the business that was really defining for you?
So I'm going to be really honest. One of the most difficult times, things
Okay.
that had happened, was when I turned 30. I wanted to be president of the company,
Okay.
and I went to my mom and said, I'd like to be president of the company, and I was made promoted to president of the company. But at that same time, Richard Hernandez, the man who had taught me into getting into the business, had hired his nephew. And you probably recognize the name, Joe Hernandez.
Mhm.
So Joe was working for my mom, and I had my best friend came to work for me during the summer as well, Sharon. And Joe and Sharon ended up getting together and getting married. I was the maid of honor in their wedding. And I'll never forget, it was about the time I was made president of the company. Joe asked to have a meeting with my mom. I remember going into the conference room, and he said, it was a Tuesday, and he said, by the way, I know, Frida, you're going to be making me president of the company. And I think I'm just going to go in a different direction. She was my mom. He was my mom's general manager at the time. And he said, I'm going to open an export business. Some story he told us about what he was going to do. And I'll never forget feeling kind of anxious about that, because Joe was really the star salesperson and star salesperson. We were just moved off the produce market into a warehouse. So we were one of the very first companies that did that.
So did you let him off the hook, or do you feel like were you feeling at the time like he was leaving because you were?
He said that.
Okay.
But of course I found out afterwards, that he'd already borrowed money from some of our customers. He'd already started his company, but we didn't know that at the time. And so most people know that he and Sharon started World Variety Groups. And then, and so became a direct competitor. So he wasn't going into the export business. And what was interesting about that time is that you feel kind of betrayed when someone does that, but that happens all the time in the produce industry and in any industry. But it made me be a sharper business person. So I remember strategizing so I knew Joe well enough, so I knew, and he knew us. So what would he think we were going to do? And then we would do something differently. So, but it was a really difficult time. And, now it's not uncommon for someone to leave a company and to start their own business. But back in 1980s, it was very unusual. And so,
Well, and you're 30. I mean, you're brand new into this role, and all of a sudden you get hit with that right out of the box.
it was interesting. I mean, it's a really great learning experience. And, I learned early on that it was important to, be cordial to people, even, it wasn't personal, right? But to be cordial to people.
Yeah.
Even though, as I walked around the show yesterday here, I always we call it the Frida's Alumni Club. We have many members that are in other parts of the industry. I feel like they got their training at Frida's and they've gone on to do great things.
That is awesome. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, within the journey, there's always different things that happen, turning points and stuff like that. So
You feel like your world's going to end at the time, but obviously looking back, you're smiling about it.
The best thing someone can do for you is be a really tough competitor, because they, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So, and I would imagine in this produce industry that so many people have gotten their best ideas and their best success because they were pushed up against a wall. I mean, I think of the whole RPC business back in the day, right? So,
It was alien. Still, to a certain degree, to some people.
all right. So you come into the business, not planning to 30, you're made president, which is That's super, I don't care what industry or business you're in, right? So with your mom, I mean, she built the business, right? She's the one that got it started. How was that, right? So now you're in charge. How in the world was that relationship, and how did you manage into that? I mean, that seems like a pretty tall.
You mean like, did she let go of the reins? Like,
Well, yeah,
right
just
away?
all up. I mean, I can only imagine that being a difficult. And so let's see.
So what my mom did, so when she said I was going to become president, she said, well, I'm going to write a letter to the entire industry. Okay, this is before fax machines. Okay, there was no email. So we wrote letters.
Come on, Karen. Was there a time before fax machines?
Yes, there was.
You know what? Nobody even knows what a fax machine is today. I mean, you're talking about something that's old technology.
Yeah,
Anyway.
so there's no email. She wrote the letter to the industry. So I said, Mom, when you write the letter, please tell everyone that nothing will change. And she said, absolutely not. I actually expect you to make changes. So, but what she announced in the letter was that she was going to go on her first ever 2-week vacation. So I was made president on July 1st, 1986, and then she went away for 2 weeks. Okay, and there were no celebrations. She went to like a spa, and I was on my own.
Wow, that's awesome.
And, the only thing, I don't remember if I had check signing ability at the bank, but I literally had to make all the decisions. So all the grower decisions, all the customer decisions, I had to set the prices. I used to write a newsletter called the Hot Sheet. You probably remember that. And it's amazing what happens when you actually have to make decisions. So that was like the way she kicked it off for me. So she was always there providing support, but she knew that things had to change. She didn't like the running of the business so much in the strategy. She loved the growing relationship, like kind of the finance and filing and the pricing and things like that. And so, we collaborated. So, but it was hard. When you're the second generation and you're made president at a young age, there's ego issues, right? Yeah. So I wanted to make my mark on the business, but I also knew that I had a financial responsibility. So I would ask my mom's opinion, but I didn't always take it. Or I would not ask her opinion, but I would do what she would think, right? And so, it was a learning time. One of the first things I did, I'll never forget. Were you at Chiquita?
Yes.
One time, okay. So 1988, I saw the financials, right? And we introduced the Kiwi Free to America. My mom was known as the Kiwi Queen. And I realized we weren't making money selling Kiwi Fruit. So I announced to the supermarket news that we were going to get out of the Kiwi Fruit business. I never told my mother.
Oh my God.
So an article comes out in supermarket news, and the top half of the page says Frida's exits Kiwi Fruit. The other one's horrifying. What's the bottom article? Chiquita gets into the new tropical fruit. But I'll never forget, I didn't say anything to my mom because I was just running it like a business and said, we don't have enough market share. We can't make enough profit on it. So, but she realized she kind of had to go with the flow.
So, all right, well, that was
You were probably there.
Yeah, I had just gotten into the business early on. Actually, I had not started at Chiquita at that point in time. I was working for Fred. I was working for him, but I was working in another company. But
I can't stop thinking about. I'm sorry, I got to back up to the college thing. So if you watch the documentary, my mom talks about going to UCLA and paying $26 a semester. That blew my mind.
Yeah. At UCLA. Yes.
Yeah.
She thought they were being ripped off.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so we're running up against time. There's so much to get through. So all right, now let's fast forward, right? So you sold the damn business.
I did.
Just a little bit about that, and then I want to talk a little bit about, your blog, what you're doing, where you're going now.
It's keeping you busy now.
So my sister and I own our company.
Yeah.
And since 1990, both of us had 2 kids. Was given the opportunity to work summers, just like we were no pressure to go into the business. And one of the 4 kids decided that they loved business, and that was my eldest daughter.
Right.
So Alex started working for us in 2011. And, she started as the marketing promotions, running trade shows, moving up, and then eventually went into sales. And then became director of sales and got married and had a baby. And about that time, I was working with a business coach, and I had her working with my business coach because I think everyone always needs someone as a sounding board, right? That's not their direct boss or their mom or a coworker. And so apparently Alex had been talking with the business coach, and I never knew what they talked about. So she came back from maternity leave, and he's like, "Hey, Alex, you better talk to your mom." So I find this out later. So she comes to my office one day, and she's like, "Mom, I need to talk to you." And I said, "Okay." And she said, "I just want you to know I love the business and I want to work in the business, but I don't want to own the business." And she was kind of our plan, right? We moved up through the company. She was in management. And I said, I'm kind of like my mom was very supportive of me. I said, "Well, thanks for telling me. I'm glad you figured it out and you're honest about it, and no hard feelings.
Right.
Go back to work." And then I went to my sister's office and I said, "Well, so much for plan A. We've got to go to plan B." Because, it was during COVID and, there's a lot of things happening as you get older. You think you don't want to, we did not want to be our mom at 90 years old and still coming to the office.
Right.
Right. So we decided the best thing to do was to find the perfect buyer for our company. So we hired an investment banker and went to market. And we're really fortunate that we ended up partnering with Legacy Produce in Anaheim. And there were so many synergies between our two companies. And of course, when I was negotiating with them, they quickly recognized that the biggest asset they were buying was Alex and her relationships in the business. She and I had worked together for so long to develop that. And so there's no hard feelings on her part, or, we're so happy that people that she's working with now. And she's the third generation carrying on the legacy. It's so funny. Their name is Legacy.
Carrying on the legacy,
of our family business. And they're so respectful of the brand. And you have people walk the show, they'll see Frida's. They don't see the other company's Legacy and the rest go. And it's really been a fantastic situation. She's vice president of sales and marketing and doing a great job. And every once in a while, she calls her mom for advice, or sometimes, and this makes me laugh, she'll text me, "Mom, do you have the mobile number for, this buyer or that buyer?" So it's still connected.
That's awesome. Yeah. Because, obviously for the industry, you guys at the company, it was pretty shocking, right? Companies being sold, I don't think anybody would have predicted that. But I got to tell you, she's smart, Alex. Owning a business and being in that, it's a lot more fun to be working versus trying to run it, because as you know, there's a lot comes with that ownership.
And that's what she realizes, that the stress.
Yeah.
Of running
From
a
Lucy?
business. Yeah, she did. Actually, she did.
Yeah.
So she was as much a business partner for me as my sister was. So.
All right. So just as we get close to wrapping up, now you're very active on not social media per se, but you do a blog and you're out, you post stuff and share things. What is it? Keeps you, as Ed said, what keeps you busy now? What is it you're looking to do? What's the next step?
So I started blogging, back in like 15 years ago.
Okay.
So I was inspired by John Mackey, the founder of Whole Foods.
Mm-hmm.
Every CEO should have their own voice separate from the corporation. So I started my blog, What's on Karen's Plate, back then, just as a way to talk about produce, talk about business, talk about life. And then when I sold the business, I stopped it really because I wasn't going to be working for a while. And I took a year off.
Okay.
Because I think after the stress of running a business for more than 30 years, I needed a break. And then it came to me that really what I wanted to do was help other leaders be successful and to deal with the challenges they have. So I started an executive coaching, business coaching practice.
Okay.
And I have clients both in produce and not in produce. They're all owners, CEOs, company leaders. And I help them, I'm their business coach, just as I had a business coach. And I had dinner with a colleague last night, and she said, I could not run my business without my coach. That it's so important to have an independent person who's not in the business, who can help you work on the business, talk about strategy, talk about challenges, that you can't confide in with a coworker,
Right.
right? Or a board, right? So that's what I'm doing. So I'm doing enough of that, that I'm busy. I do have room for a couple more clients in my portfolio because it's not a lifetime relationship, right? So I take care of my clients and then they move on. And then meanwhile,
It's so successful that I'm thinking of it.
yeah. And then spend a little time golfing now. I love golfing, which I never had time to do when I was working in the business. Yeah, not that great, but I
Well,
played.
play one day.
Yeah, I played 18 of the top 100 golf courses already because my husband's an avid golfer, so we go all kinds of crazy places.
And is your husband in the business?
No, he's a professional speaker and CEO coach. We met 25 years ago when he spoke at my CEO group. And then we ended up getting together about 5 years ago.
Very nice.
If I didn't say it already, you have to watch Fear No Freak. Yeah.
Where do they find you? What's your executive coaching? What's the website?
Called Karen Caplan. So it's www.karencaplan.com. And that's actually how you can find the film. If you don't want to go on YouTube, go to my website. That's one of the reasons I started a website, was so there's a home to the blog.
Gotcha.
So, and I'm pretty available. If you go on LinkedIn, I'm writing a blog again, by the way. So
Yeah, I've seen your blog. You actually, you do some nice stuff.
Well, so I write about
You're a
business.
good writer.
Yes, I thank you. I don't write so much about, life and produce anymore, but I try because I have clients in many businesses.
Right.
But I know what challenges we all face in business. So about a month ago, I wrote a blog about getting ready for a trade show. Gee, I wonder why I did that. And I got so many comments from people that said, wow, this is like, the list of the checklist of exactly what I should do to get ready to become the IMPA.
Yeah.
So because of my years of experience in the produce business, sometimes I see things happening and I can write about them.
Karen, really appreciate you taking the time off the show floor and coming to sit down with us. Certainly, a lot of things I didn't know about you and how you got here. And I hope.
Can I just say we're gonna have to have a part two? I feel like
You could say that.
Okay. All
I
right.
would
Well,
love
hopefully
that.
she'll come back.
Yeah.
You know what? I want to go to LA though. And let's do it.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Well, why don't you come to San Clemente and then we can golf afterwards?
Hey, done. I ain't gonna play golf, eh?
Look, not very well.
You know why they call it golf, right?
You know what?
All the other 4-letter words for ticket.
I didn't know that.
All right.
Come on, that's the oldest golf.
I'm sorry. I didn't know that was brand new, but I will be using it. I
Okay.
promise you. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoy the rest of your time here in Atlanta.
Okay.
Thanks,
All
guys.
right.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Fresh CrEd. It's been an honor to sit down with Karen Caplan and hear her inspiring journey of leadership, innovation, and growth in the produce industry. A special thanks to our title sponsor, JR Imports, for their support in making this episode possible. If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to follow the Fresh CrEd on your favorite podcast platform and share it with friends and colleagues in the industry. Stay tuned for more insightful conversations with the people and ideas shaping the future of produce. Until next time, stay fresh